I got my hands on the Pixel 8 Pro and I'm taking you through my unboxing and my first impressions. This is the Obsidian model in 128GB config, and I'll show you a comparison between it and the Pixel 7 Pro, also along with the Pixel Watch 2 setup and my first impressions of both, so stay tuned for that. Right away you can see the brand new matte finish and the new camera bump, and I'm excited to show you everything that's new. But first you can see very standard Google box. They're including a USB-C to A adapter, which personally I don't think is necessary anymore. I don't think I've ever actually used one, but let me know if that's something you use and if you still think it's needed in the box. We've also got a USB-C to C cable here, which is always nice to have. It has sort of this nice soft touch finish, and it feels really premium to the touch. Always nice to see that attention to detail on the cable included with the phone. We've also got the documentation in the SIM tool, pretty standard stuff from Google, nothing really new here if you unboxed last year's Pixel 7 Pro, nothing new except of course the phone here. So here it is, the Pixel 8 Pro in Obsidian. You can see these brand new rails on the sides that are actually thicker than last year. That's because of the screen being flat compared to last year's waterfall display. The back has a brand new matte finish, which I like a lot, and kicks the Pixel series up a notch. The camera visor is one clear knockout instead of two separate for a cleaner look. Also includes a 50 megapixel 1.68 exposure, the new 48 megapixel ultra wide with autofocus, and the new 48 megapixel with 2.8 exposure. It also has flash and a new temperature sensor that no one really asked for. Otherwise it's a standard build. SIM tool on the left, power and volume rockers on the right, fingerprint under the display, and USB-C in the bottom. We should see meaningful improvements to photos taken on this phone because of the hardware, but when it comes to Google phones, you're never really buying it for the hardware. It's more about the processing power of the chip, the latest AI changes, and how that all comes together for a better experience, despite not having the latest hardware packed inside. Of course, all of that will be tested in my long-term review coming to the channel later this month. Comparing to the Pixel 7 Pro, the biggest changes is that new flat edge screen. This does technically mean the frame is a little wider than it was before because it covers the whole side of the phone instead of just the screen wrapping partway into it. It's not a big deal, and I think it does make the phone feel more sturdy and solid, but it does feel thicker to hold because of that wider frame. Of course, the change from glossy to matte really makes the 8 Pro feel refined and easily more premium than the 7 Pro. The weight's also a little heavier than last year, so that combined with that flatter display and the new matte back really makes the 8 Pro feel a lot less like a toy than the 7 Pro did, and really more like a flagship phone should feel. The other thing to note is that the front glass here has a slight rounding around the corners into the frame. It doesn't round on the actual display, but just enough around the bezels to soften that edge. I was personally hoping for it to be completely flat edge to edge, but it's still a huge improvement from last year's phone. I'm showing you the first boot here to see how easy it is to set up the new Pixel when transferring to a new phone. You can see the difference between it and the Pixel 7 Pro, looking more rounded around the edges, just more playful and fitting for Google, and just more like what we come to expect from phones these days. With Google's new setup process, you can transfer from one device to another, and this will do a lot more than the typical Google backup, restoring all of your settings, your apps, but also your wallpapers, your lock screens, and your home screen layout. It was a much needed feature, and I'm glad to be able to set this up without needing to do anything from scratch. If you have the phone nearby, you can bring it over, click the pop-up, and then scan the QR code on the new phone, and from there it'll automatically connect to the phone and begin the setup and transfer, which I'll speed up by the way so you can see the whole process. It's a really streamlined process. I'm a huge fan of this setup versus what Android phones have done in the past, and the end result is basically the screen where you can choose what apps and what settings you want to carry over from apps, messages, device settings, call history, and then more. And then from there we get to do the setup of other features like turning on that always on display or letting it identify music around you on the lock screen. And then from there it's only going to take a few more minutes to set up the phone, which we will use to unbox this brand new Pixel Watch 2. So this is also the Obsidian model. We've got a brand new package this year. I wasn't a huge fan of the previous model, but I hope that we'll be getting some meaningful improvements here that'll actually make it worth it. So on the left side, we've got the Pixel Watch charger with USB-C on one end. It has a soft touch finish and it'll also allow for faster charging than the first gen model. On the right, we have a spare watch band for the large size. Nothing really new here. And then in the center, we have the Pixel Watch itself. Overall, feeling very similar to last year's model. It has a matte finish on the sides, all around looking the same with most improvements happening in the chipset, but we've also heard the digital crown is much nicer than last year's model. And here's the difference between the two band sizes from small to large. So now that the phone's set up, you can see it's a really premium looking phone and looks way better than last year's in every way. It's funny how these simple changes lead to lasting impacts, which is really clear here with Google. I'm really excited to use both the Pixel 8 Pro and the Pixel Watch 2 to see how much they've changed since last year. I'm setting up the Pixel Watch now to begin testing, so let me know if you have any comments or anything you want to see in a longer term review of both of these devices coming later this month. Your comments will help shape that review. Last year I remember returning the Pixel Watch after this issue causing it to send repeated pairing requests to my phone, basically every few minutes, making it nearly unusable. I'm really hoping that's fixed this year and that Google made changes that are really noticeable to the average consumer and not just the pro users. So let me know what you guys want to see with both of these devices. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.